take one group of 20, so 40 people are going to go through at once, and then Chris and I are going to be out here chatting you guys, the rest of you guys up, just hanging out until Flo and Ming are ready to take the second group of 20 through. That sound good? Okay. If you don't have a name tag, who has our name tags? Dan, right at the back of the line. Oh no, okay, middle of the line. Lava. Lava does not look like Dan. Lava has name tags. Lava has waivers. If you have not signed a waiver, you're not allowed inside the house.
And then there's opportunities to ask questions. There are plans posted for those who are interested in taking a peek as we go along, but let me sort of walk through the room layouts first, and then we'll work our way through the units. So
start with that. So a couple of things that we really cared about when we first came to this property, and when we're looking at properties like this, are what are the bones that we have to work with, and what are the things that are expensive to change, right? We want to stick with the things that are going to keep our renovation budget and support our business case as best as possible. So first thing, whenever you step into a property like this, how much actual square footage am I dealing with, and is the layout a layout that could be modified to what I'm looking for? And when I'm talking about what we're looking for, generally we're trying to fit a generous two-bedroom layout, right? Why 2 bedrooms? One, you get a rent premium on 2 bedrooms versus a 1 bedroom or a 1 bedroom plus den. But more importantly, it diversifies the tenant profile that we're after, right? It's not just a single person that can rent. It's not just a couple. When we have 2 bedrooms, we have, rich single dude, we have a couple, we have roommates. And why do we like that tenant profile? Because it's, nothing wrong with young families. I'm a young family myself. But we are looking for people who are coming in, renting for a couple of years, and then turning over to allow us to come back up to market rents. We don't believe in things like renovictions. We don't believe in some of these more underhanded approaches. We want somebody who's naturally at that point in life. They're like, hey, rent for a few years and move on. We can bring them rent back up to market, rent for a few years, move on. Right? So to do that, nice modern finishes. Our competition is condominiums, right? So, we're going to put in here high quality vinyl flooring. There'll be quartz countertops, not cheapy kitchens, a little bit better. So we will have custom kitchens. There will be custom vanities because we are going right against that condo. Okay, so first floor plans. And you can see here we've got more than enough space to have 2 bedrooms. And so the way we're laying this one out is we'll have 2 bedrooms in the front here. So kind of where our cameraman Fred is. We'll have a bedroom there. And then because of this particular layout, and when you're looking at properties with us, it's not immediately evident where the second bedroom is going to go, right? So one of the creative solutions we came up with, because we quite like this property, it's very wide. If you've been into Toronto properties, they're not usually this wide, right? But it can also be too wide sometimes if we don't have a plan to take advantage of the space. So what we landed on was actually a split layout. So we're going to put the bedroom at the front there, and then where this tall gentleman is standing, this area here, we're actually going to level out because we don't need that staircase anymore, right? We're having a separate unit here, so we don't need this rear staircase any longer. So we're going to extend the floor over that staircase area, and then this whole back portion, which was a bathroom and staircase, actually becomes a second bedroom, right? And this is what I mean about when you're coming into these places, it takes a little bit of experience to see it past what's presented immediately in front of you, and to know what you could potentially do with the space. Now, we have to do this in phases, because as we're renovating this property, we can't just simply get rid of the staircase and get rid of access to the basement. So we're doing a 2-phase approach where we're closing different permits at different times, which allow us to put in that second bedroom in the second phase. And then as a result, you've got the center space here. This wall, this comes out, and then you have an L-shaped kitchen here, and then you have your access to the rear. When you're looking at properties, ceiling heights, very important. While you can change ceiling heights, it's really expensive to do. And there's plenty of properties with good ceiling heights. Buy the ones that have good ceiling heights. Layouts, making sure that fits that game plan I talked to you guys about. Outdoor space. Especially since COVID, there's been a real premium for having outdoor space. Even if it's a small deck, even if it's a Juliet balcony, the memory of being locked inside your house for months on end has not gone away, and the reality is a lot of people are working from home right now, right? So our tenant profile, young professionals, a lot of them are working from home. They need to have that outdoor space just to get away from, you know, all the interior space that we have. Any questions about this floor? What's the square footage on the floor? I can tell you in square meters. This is one of the pain in the butt things working with any renovations. Everything code is done in meters, but nobody knows what 85 square meters is. I think that's what, 900?
No, 850.
850? Gary's the real Asian that can do the mental math.
Just had
I'm terrible. So yeah, about 850. And I would say that is kind of the lower end of what you're looking for. It works in this neighborhood with this tenant profile. If I could get up to 950, that'd be fantastic. Because then your common area is a little bit bigger. I will say that main floors are going to be the most challenging when it comes to arranging layouts. Because main floors, we always have to deal with egress for the floors above us, so we need to accommodate for a staircase. And sometimes we need to accommodate egress for the basement suite as well. So a lot of business cases fall apart when we start designing out what a main floor would be. And you know, we're not buying a place until we have a rough idea of what it's going to look like. During the showings is actually when we start to like imagine what the place could be like. And it is why, you know, it's important to go through with somebody with experience, because with some certainty we can do things like say, hey, like this is a structural wall, so we know if this comes out in our layout, we're going to have to support this with a beam.
Yeah.
Right?
This will be supporting, structure, supporting wall, right?
So this one's not structural, but this one is.
This one is?
Yeah. And you can see at the top there's a double plate. So two 2x4s,
Yep.
the rough cut 2x4s. That's an indicator that this is structural. And in general, when you're looking at properties, any wall that is kind of like the main center wall is likely a structural wall. When you're looking at spans that are greater than about 16 feet, right? Once you start to get beyond 12 to 16 feet, the beams are going to start to sag, so you need to have some structure there. So when we looked through this place, we knew that the center beam was going to be structural. If we replace it, we're going to have to put in a beam to support it.
Do you get some sort of engineering assessment before let's say you make the purchase, so that you know what you can actually knock down, what you can actually knock down?
No. And I would love to. I would love to. But the reality is the speed of the Toronto market doesn't allow for that. Right? Even now, when it's quiet, you can't get an engineering assessment because an engineer is only able to assess what they can see. And they're only going to assess it when you tear it all down. So once we bought this place, we actually gutted it and then brought in all the engineers because they can only guess. They can be like, I think with like 80% confidence that's a structural member. But they can't say for certain until the drywall's all out and then they can start assessing things, right? So this is a commercial approach to renovation where we take many phases. And that's also why when we do it, our planning phases end up being a lot longer. We plan for about 4 months because once we start to execute, it's right? And it's very, in residential construction, it's not always like that. Oftentimes you just get some plans, you start doing construction, and then you're like constantly adapting. That doesn't work for investors, right? You have budgets and you have ARV targets that you have to meet. And you don't have the same flexibility as somebody who's just doing a renovation because they want their house to look nicer, right? If you run into like $20,000, $30,000 modifications into your business case, that can drastically change things. So we try to take a stepping stone approach, and every time we take the next step, we do a revised quote, and we keep getting more and more drilled down to a price. By the end of the planning phase, by the end of the 4 months, when we've got architecture, construction drawing set, plumbing drawing set, electrical drawing set, when we've got all those things in, now I can take that and give it to a contractor and say, quote on this. Right? Because if a contractor's quoting you based on looking around and writing some notes, it's high level at best. And you're probably looking at a plus minus 20-25% on whatever that contractor's giving you. Because how can he quote you? He doesn't have a bill of goods, he doesn't know what they're building exactly, where, like here we need a huge steel beam. That beam alone is a $10,000 beam. So without having an engineering set, there's no way of knowing.
What's the lot size?
Good question. I don't know.
23 and 108.
Gary
Oh yeah,
knows.
that's
Gary
right.
did
I
his
remember.
research.
20,
I just
28,
look at the
108.
house.
Yeah, I remember now.
So great width. Like it to be a little longer,
Yeah.
but it's a good 8 out of 10, I would say. And those are actually the kind of properties we want to buy. 10 out of 10s, always too expensive. 8 out of 10s, we've got a couple of problems to solve. That's actually the sweet spot.
What do you do about insulation? You got plaster with no insulation on
Yeah.
this exterior.
So this is actually a party wall. So that's why.
Okay, next door.
So this is next door. So this is a double brick wall, so no insulation here. But we will be putting in insulation here on this side. It's likely going to be a batt insulation because it's more cost effective. But these 3 walls will be getting.
So you have to have 2x4s for the that?
Either a 2x4 or 2x6 member. I can't remember what was specified. But to your point, this is something that we have to make sure that we're meeting to make sure we're meeting current code.
Right.
So keep everybody happy.
One other quick, how do you run electrical when you have to open up this plaster?
Yeah, good question. So existing electrical will all come out. Existing HVAC all comes out. So all these
Rag water.
all these wires, ripping them all out. And then the way we're doing this, because we're doing it as a legal 4, we'll actually be running pony panels to each unit. So we'll have main conduits, those fireproof conduits with the fireproof stuff inside. We're running that to each one, and then from there we'll branch out the electrical. Yeah. But absolutely we have to make sure that we're hitting the fire separation requirements because we're doing this legally. So,
How's the double brick for noise?
double brick it's a good question. Double brick can be very good if the brick is in good shape. Where double brick is useless is if there's holes, and it can be, in the mortar joints between the sides. If you get a lot of holes, and some of these older homes do have them, it's like Swiss cheese, and noise just goes right through. And so you may have to pay for tuck pointing.
Yeah, tuck
that's
Point.
right.
Yeah.
Tuck pointing to fix the mortar, because you need to seal. Sound travels through air, right? And if you have holes, it's all like the sound will get through.
I assume that when you guys first spec out the property, you didn't necessarily plan to close off the back. Yet,
So-
so you calculate the cost of okay, what is it? How can I
Absolutely.
make it into 2 bed, and then is it worth more to do a walkout and all that stuff?
Absolutely. So when we're coming through these properties, we're trying to come through with like a 70-80% plan, right? Roughly, what can we do? Do we have enough square footage? How can we be creative on some of these things? This was the toughest floor to solve for, right? We had a good plan for the basement. We had a good plan for the other floors. But here, a little less so. But that was enough for our client to say, okay, we're good to go because we have an existing triplex, an existing plan that we can work with. So we have plan A. But plan B, which is really where the rental lift is, getting a fourplex in, getting us to 2 bedrooms, we hadn't completely solved for at that point. But the business case still worked for it as a straight up triplex. So that's why they pulled the trigger. Yeah. But it's a good question because it would be amazing to come in and be able to 100% figure out what we're going to do. But a lot of times we don't have that luxury. Let's go down to the basement. It's a gross basement, so just be aware. But basements are the most interesting. And actually, when we're doing homes to look for purchase, where we spend the most amount of time. Just mind your step as we head down there. Architect said completely open plan here, and we're gonna need a 40-foot steel beam. That's like a $25,000 beam right away. And how are we gonna transport a 40-foot beam? But a good architect knows that okay, we're gonna have to break it up a little bit. We might be wanting some load coming down in the middle of the property, so we can break up the beams into 2 beams. But then they hand it over to the engineer, and the engineer says, okay, when you're doing this, you're gonna need XYZ strength of this beam, ABC strength of this beam.
So if you kind of, I don't know how Toronto works, but when we do our duplex conversions in earlier, the inspector, if you know kind of what you're talking about, and you can gauge that, like you're talking technical about concrete, about structural strength, and obviously you're an engineer, he'll work with you and be like, yeah, don't pay an engineer. He's like, you know what you're talking about, we want to make sure we get this. Is Toronto like that too, or no? Yeah, all right, cool.
Can't believe you've asked that question.
I was just asking.
It's a good question because it does vary a lot region by region. And you know, if you guys are experienced in doing this in other regions, there's a lot of transferable skills. But it is these things like how much of a pain in the ass are inspectors to work with here?
Yeah.
And it actually varies quite a bit. So the inspector here, super experienced, has known our architect for 20 years.
Okay.
They're like so here, a lot easier. A couple blocks over, we've got a different inspector. Not so easy to work with. So that guy, we have to prove everything we're doing. You know, we built a deck there, and you know, we're having to put these massive foundational posts for a deck that is like, I think 16 inches above the ground. It's like we can build another deck on top of it. And that's because that inspector is just a little more challenging to work with, right?
Yeah, I guess you pick your battles too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.